Join David and Ross as they become discombobulated in Dorset. From pixies to poltergeists, witches to woodrows, hear them explore the legends, folklore, and outright weirdness of their own county. This is Dark Dorset, the podcast of Weird Dorset.
Cameron goes first to me, isn't it?
Always.
Okay. Hello, this is Ross in Dorchester.
Hello, I'm David. I'm in Wareham.
See the way I just turned on the energy there, David, and brought you along with me.
You did.
Yeah.
You brought me along with it. It's the PMA, isn't it? Also, I was actually laughing at the way you leant back and nearly tripped over into the corner of your neon lit studio.
That's making it sound better than it actually is. So welcome to Dark Dorset. I don't know what episode it is now. I don't think we don't number these episodes. We give them titles, don't we? So this is Dark Dorset, the Knowlton Church and
Earthworks.
Earthworks sounds, it doesn't do it justice, does it?
And it sounds like earthworms.
Yeah. So we went to Knowlton Church, which is a haunted, derelict church near Wimborne. And why did we go there, David?
Nicely passed.
Yeah.
We went there because on all of the research we've done so far, Knowlton Church keeps coming up as possibly Dorset's most haunted place.
Ooh.
So yes, a little bit different from the last jaunt we've had out. We didn't go looking for one particular legend or ghost, but it was really to see what the place was like and how it felt. We also went on a lovely Sunday morning. The sun was out. It was quite early, but it wasn't, at midnight with the mist rolling in when you're probably more likely to think you're seeing ghosts.
Yeah. I think it was one of my favourite places we've been so far. I don't know if I was just in a particularly good mood that day or it was very sunny but it was just...
It was lovely.
Yeah, I didn't feel like any bad vibes at all. If anything, I felt uplifted by the vibes of the rings and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, how would we describe it to the listeners? Do you like the way I keep
I'm getting all the difficult questions here.
Okay.
Okay, let's describe it. So it's out of town. It's in beautiful countryside, which itself was very peaceful and more open than we've kind of seen in past visits to places. But it's lovely. You can see sky, empty fields for miles and miles around. It's not a very high chalk ridge, but it sits on the top. It's the highest point of the surroundings. And they are Neolithic earthworks. So there's quite a few henges, which are circular earthworks. I think there's 3 main henges in the Knowlton site.
So they're known as the Knowlton Rings. They comprise of North Circle, the South Circle, the Church Circle, and the Old Saxon Graveyard. The latter all but disappeared as a consequence of agriculture.
There's also a really excellent aerial photo on the English Heritage website, and you can see that the main circle that people visit is the one with the church in now, and that's quite near the road, and you can walk to that very easily. But in the main enclosure of that field, there were probably 3 or 4 other circular features. There's a small woodland inside one circle, and you can see kind of paths between these circles, and it's also the highest area of concentration of barrows in Dorset as well, which are kind of the ancient burial mounds. So all these earthworks are not just kind of one thing in isolation. They're a complex, and they think they were quite ceremonial rather than defensive.
Yeah, they're saying there's about 35 barrows around there, and I always get mixed up. Which one's older, long barrow or round barrow?
A long barrow.
A long barrow is the older one, and then the round barrows are the later ones. But even so, we're talking thousands of years old. But something that was interesting is that the older of the two, which I've already forgotten, would be about 1,000 years older than the younger one. So even at that point, when these people were making the round barrows, the long barrows around them are so far in the past, 1,000 years old. If you think of that's the time, there was no sort of written history. These things are just mythically old things which have got their ancestors within them. They must have been very special, magical places.
Yes.
Yes. But
Unless, I was thinking that. I was like, how do they know they're special and ancient if they didn't see it on Time Team?
No,
but
just word of mouth.
It must have been handed down word of mouth. But if it wasn't, or if that had stopped somehow, they were just normal geographical features.
But the fact that they created their own barrows must mean
it was a tradition that kept on going.
There was a tradition of some kind.
What beer are you drinking, Ross?
Oh yes, we forgot
another free one from your sister.
No, these are on the way back from Knowlton. There's a really nice farm shop on the way to Dorchester. I bought a couple of different locally sourced beers, and this is from a brewery called Windward brewery in Bridport. So this one's called Downton or Downtown. It's a fruity pale ale. I was seeing if I had any information about it on the back. All it says is don't drink if I'm pregnant. But when I first tasted it tasted disgusting. But one mouthful in, I'm away. It's good. But it's a 4.5. What you got there, David?
I've got a bright yellow can of something called I Love Lamp by a brewery called Evil Genius, and it's a it's a pineapple German wheat beer. And as long as none of my friends are listening, I'll say I like it because it was pleasantly surprising. I thought it'd be sweet and horrible, but
it doesn't sound natural, David.
And I don't have my glasses on, so I can't tell you how strong it is. 5.5.
Okay, you're winning.
Yeah.
You're beating me so far. I'm glad we know that.
It's a race as well, by the way.
Yeah, the human race. So I should let you know what Knowlton means for place name as well.
Yes, please.
Okay, can you guess what Knowlton is?
It's the town where the knoll is, the hill. Okay. It's the town of the hill.
The town of the hill. So let's have a look. Knowlton in Woodlands. It was in a Domesday book. It's about Knowlton with a C. Knowlton. None of a K. So it's the farm by the hillock. From the old English word knoll. There we go. Nothing exciting on that one, really. But, you know, everything you learn, it's not going to be exciting. I don't know where I'm going with that. It's going to be great outtakes on this one. Saying that this was a settlement up until sort of the time of the Black Death. Is that correct? You said?
Yeah. So the interesting thing about Knowlton Church is that there's a church there. We haven't mentioned that yet. In the centre of one of the henge earth rings, there's a church that was built there in the 12th century. Although I think most of what we see at the minute, or the ruins left behind that we saw, were 15th century. And there was a small settlement around the church, or around the outside of the rings, and that disappeared, I think, in the 17th century, around the time of the Black Death. And the church, they would still... A lot of people in the settlement died around the Black Death time, and the few that were remaining decided that they'd move closer to the larger settlement of Wimborne, I think. But the church was still used until the 18th century, when it became abandoned.
Do you know about the bells? Are you aware?
Do you know about the bells?
Yeah. Do you know the legend of the bells of that church?
No, tell me about the legend of the bells.
So apparently it was famous for having 3 bells. When it started to become misused and derelict, 2 of the bells was taken. One bell went to Sturminster Marshall, and the other one went to Shapwick. I don't know where's Shapwick? I've never heard of Shapwick before. Must be nearby. Anyway, so and the third one, there's a couple of legends of what happened with the third one. One said it was stolen by the devil and discarded into the River Stour. But then there's another legend that it was stolen by thieves from Sturminster Newton, who wanted the bell for their own church, and then they were stealing it. And then the people from the area apparently went to a local witch. I don't know why. I don't know why that would be the first thing they want to do. And they got the witch to curse the people who stole the bell. And then the horses wouldn't move when they were on a particular bridge. And then the men tried to get the bell off of the back of the wagon, and then the bell fell into the river. Whatever they tried with ropes and stuff, they couldn't get the bell out of the river. So the River Stour, that is. So, and apparently there's a particular rhyme about it in legend. So, Knowlton Bell is stole and thrown into the White Mill Hole, where all the devils in hell could never pull up the Knowlton Bell. at certain times you can hear it peeling under the water. This area, it must be particularly special for having all of these different earthworks around there. It must be something significant for people to want to have built them, because it would have taken hundreds of man hours to build. Like David said, it's not a defensive mound, because a defensive mound would have a ditch on the outside to keep people out, whereas this has got a ditch on the inside. But it's unusual that they would put a Christian building in the middle of this and not destroy the old pagan site. Apparently they think there would have been stones around the circle as well. Some dowsers found some buried standing stones, and they think some of the stones might have been taken down to be used to build probably the original church.
We need to get some dowsing rods for our next trip out.
Yeah, I've got a great book on dowsing, which looks like the illustrations have been done by the same person who did the Joy of Sex. And it's pretty... I'm
in. Sold.
Yeah, but make sure I bring the right one.
Yeah, and the right dowsing rod as well.
David, it's twitching. It's twitching. But there's also talk of ghosts being seen in the actual church, isn't there?
Yes, there is. So... With such an ancient site, there are rumours that there are 4,000 years worth of souls trapped in the church and in the Neolithic mounds. So the first one that I read about was a phantom horse and rider that's meant to gallop from one side of the ring to the other and go completely through the stone church. It is a ruin. There's no roof on it. The tower's still standing. There's no roof on that. I think one of the walls of the main nave has collapsed, but it's still not easy to get a horse and a rider through that building.
It's not a particularly big building either, is it? When we went and looked around inside it, I can't imagine it would have held more than a dozen or so people in there.
Yeah. I think it's the smallest church I've ever been in.
Yeah, it's also interesting that it's got a tower which obviously at some point had another floor in it, because it's got there's a high window there. But I couldn't work out how.
And 3 bells.
With 3 bells as well. Is 3 bells a type of whiskey?
Bells is a type of whiskey.
That's your favourite whiskey, isn't it, David?
No, yeah.
That's the only whiskey you drink.
I prefer famous grouse.
Yeah.
Quality stuff.
Jack Daniels is the only
breakfast whiskey.
Breakfast whiskey. So but I couldn't see how they could even fit a staircase in there to get up there.
It didn't look like there were any holes for staircase.
So maybe it was a ladder or something. Could have been
possibly.
Ladder. Yeah.
But then, of course, that window at the top. There's a small open window at the top of the tower, and there are reports that there is often seen a ghostly face at that window.
Have you seen the photograph someone supposedly took of the ghostly face looking out?
I did see a photograph that was reported in October last year, and someone said it was of the shadow within the tower, and there was this shape that it was really difficult to make out any human form on that, and of course it coincided with Halloween.
Yeah.
So I think they were really clutching at straws with that one.
I saw nothing, but I'm yet to check all the photographs and videos which we took. Yeah. And depending on how much time and how good my Photoshop skills are, there may be a haunted face looking out of one of those at some point.
You pesky kids.
Yeah, we'll have to have a look. But yeah, I've been reading some accounts of some paranormal investigations which have been held there, and there was a group who said there was a group of ghostly shadow people.
Yep. And auras and lights. There's a tall figure has been seen at times as well, who appears and then disappears, and the shadow of a weeping, kneeling nun, praying against one of the walls.
So it's all very busy.
Done something wrong. It does sound very busy, and it's difficult to see these aren't just people cashing in, really, because labelled as Dorset's most haunted place.
Yeah,
I'm with you. I thought it was one of the most peaceful, tranquil, beautiful sites. It was really low. It was just, but I think there's that awe through the amount of history that there is there. There was that. Do you remember that bit where we walked around the circle, and there's a couple of very old yew trees at the back of the site?
Yeah.
And there's a small gap between the yew trees that forms like an archway. the yew trees join up. And we walked through there, and people had put ribbons and messages in the trees,
and runes and prayers and things. Yeah, it was nice.
That was quite lovely through there as well.
Yeah, I really liked it because I've got some. I have made a video. Videos take a lot longer to edit than podcasts, so these things take a bit of time for me to get them out. But hopefully that will be out soon, so you can have a look at.
You'll get better. You'll get quicker.
I'll get better at those. Sorry, Dave. There's supposed to be a black dog there as well, wasn't there?
Tell me more.
I don't know. What you told me, there was a ghostly black dog which was seen.
There was a massive dog when we went there.
St. Bernard.
There's a Bernard that slobbers all down your jeans, leaving a very horrendous milky stain.
Yeah, clean on those were.
Of all the ghost stories I've heard about this, the only one that intrigues me is the one that the farmer reported.
Oh yes.
Just across the road from the site, there is a farm, a goat farm, and they have parts of, I think it's the South Circle. It's 250 metres across the South Circle. They've got part of that on their land. And part of the deal with buying the farm was that they had to section that off as a monument. Mm-hmm. And we drove into the farm after we left the site. I think you were excited by the idea of goat curry for dinner.
Yes, yeah. And Beck said she was glad that I didn't buy the goat meat, and she wouldn't have been happy if I had bought it. So I figure I dodged that goat.
We drove in, and then as soon as we got out of the car, we saw the closed signs. And the farmer's son came over to us, and he was very pleasant and explained they were closed, and we apologised. But he did let us walk around, and he did let us go through the enclosure and have a look at the monument. And we asked him about his father's experience, and he told us about that, which was
I had
cool.
heard about this, but it was great to get it from almost a horse's mouth, because he said that his dad. When they first got there, they were it was a disused farm at the time, so they were renovating it, and they were living in caravans at the time, and they were clearing a lot of the space within the large circle within which the farm is based. And he said his dad came rushing into the caravan they were staying, having knocked over the barbecue outside in a complete state. And he said that while he was outside, within the big circle, all these coloured lights all came down from the sky, small, almost like orbs. Small orbs, and they covered all over his body. And they said that they all went white when they was on him, and they were all like fizzing up and down his arms and all over him. And he had to run in order to get away from them, and then ran into the caravan. And the guy said that they had to drive to the airport that day, and his dad was just so freaked out by it that he was like breaking the speed limit and just like really panicking about it. So he said it felt to him that his dad really did witness something, because he was just so freaked out by it all.
Yes.
And I've never heard anything like that before at all.
No, it sounded really genuine. I thought, as a goat farmer, he might be kidding.
Well done.
Sorry. But he was very genuine, wasn't he? And he was kind of open to talking about it, and you could tell he was serious.
Yeah, which is great. And I was talking to a friend about this, and I was saying this feels almost more like a UFO experience than a sort of a ghost thing, but at the same time, the size of them and the way they seem to be interacting with him. And we was talking and saying that I think there's a lot more crossover between UFOs and ghosts and things like fairies than we think, because all of these, they're all kind of strange, weird experiences which human beings are trying to kind of like put into boxes and say, oh, that thing I saw there was the spirit of a dead person, that was a ghost. That thing I saw over there was something from another planet which was abducted me. That thing which made me feel this, and then
filling in the gaps.
Exactly. It's just us trying to make sense of maybe none of these explanations are true, but maybe something weird is happening. And I did feel something in that space. I've been there once before, and I went on a very, very wet, foggy day, and I didn't know about all of the other earthworks. Only went there to see the church. It did feel very strange, much different on that day. I felt very lonely. felt like you was so far away from Wimborne. Because when we went up there the second this time, I got there much quicker than I expected. It just felt like we was driving for miles and miles and miles and miles to get to this the first time I went. And I don't know, again, just shows how your perception of a place is very much controlled about like the weather, who you're with, when you're going and stuff. Your feeling of that place completely changes.
Yeah, I big thumbs up for me for Dorset's most haunted place. And I think that the farmer has gone on record to say that he's never seen anything since or felt anything since. He's never felt threatened. He's never felt fearful or afraid. And it was a kind of welcoming, kind of happy kind of presence. Yeah. So,
but I love the idea, like, if an orb, a lot of people think orbs are spirits. And like you said, if that's over 4,000 years of beings and maybe he was just completely, covered in all those thousands of years of people, and they've just welcomed him into it because they live now. They actually, their farm is actually inside that ring. Yeah. So we want to go back in the dark, don't we?
Yes, but the goat farm will still be closed.
Yes. No, we want to go back to the goat farm when it's open, which is a Saturday or a Thursday, I think.
We'll get that wrong. But we should go back in the dark on maybe on solstice when it's nice and warm and sunny. Yeah. Well, it won't be sunny at night, obviously. I meant, just warm.
Yeah. And I definitely want to, like, because one of the yew trees was pretty much hollow, wasn't it? And I think there's a whole thing about yew trees of like people being put inside yew trees, skeletons being put inside yew trees. But
you did put your arm inside.
I took my arm inside. Yeah, it felt like I was Peter Duncan in Flash Gordon when he had to do that trial. But I want to put something inside the yew tree. That sounds pretty dodgy. But I want to leave an offering.
Inside yew tree.
Yeah, that's
Operation. We call it Operation Yew Tree.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, that sounds good. It's got a ring to it. I don't know where it comes from, but I like it. So that was Knowlton Church and Earthworks. Got to think of a better word than Earthworks.
That's what it's
called.
That's the archaeological. That's the historical.
Ancient rings. It could be some ancient earthy rings.
Ceremonial complex.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. That'd be a good name for like a brewery. The ceremony. I sound pissed. I've only had 2/3 of this bottle. My lisp is getting really bad. So that was Knowlton Church and Ceremonial Complex of Earthworks.
It was, and it was a pleasure. Look out for the video because it was a really nice kind of visit. It'll make a huge difference when you actually see what we're talking about, I'm sure, this time. And
David and I were feeling the vibes, and it was good. So until next time, I've been Ross in Dorchester, and
I'm David. I think we should wave and say goodnight, mate.
Thanks, everyone. Speak to you soon.
Cheery byes.
If you knows of any weirdness you'd like to share with Dave and Ross, you can tell them by email at darkdorset@gmail.com or talk to them on Twitter at darkdorset. Well, until next time, stay discombobulated.